Ladies and gentlemen, grunts and girls, we're back. It's been a couple months. I've taken some time off. The world has gotten so out of hand lately. I really didn't know what content to put out. So as a good warrior, I just let the battlefield develop, tried to figure things out. So we're back. We'll get started here in just a moment with a weekly update. Then the main segment today, I've got Taryn Peplow from episode 11, the silent professional, U.S. Army Green Beret, SWAT sniper. We're going to sit down today, and instead of talking politics, geopolitics, socioeconomics, whose life matters, we're going to make fun of every branch of service there is. Stay tuned. We're going to get into military stereotypes in just a little bit. First segment's coming up. And for our update this week, it would be inappropriate if I didn't start with topic of coronavirus, because that's blowing up again. Looking first, as I used to do, at state of Alaska. Now we've got 1,795 cases across the state since the beginning, and 18 total deaths. There's currently 26 people hospitalized by it. Bed capacity in the state is, we've got plenty of bed space, although hearing other healthcare administrators talk, there's concern with the rising curve line that we could run into a problem with bed space. I'm not 100% bought into that yet. I kind of just watching it develop. Across the United States, 3.7 million cases, and across the world, 14.3 million cases. In the United States, over 140,000 deaths, and across the world, 603,000 deaths. Now, these are huge numbers, and that's very impactful, and it's unfortunate that people are dying. But conversations that come up seem to be regularly, especially with what I do for my full-time job. I get asked quite a bit my thoughts on this. And I know I've been vocal. We've had a couple of shows specifically about coronavirus. So here's where I stand on it. My position hasn't changed. You can go back and listen to the previous episodes. This is a very serious disease, and it warrants the appropriate amount of attention. Let's look at some other infectious diseases that are still problems across the world. Tuberculosis. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people across the United States die from tuberculosis. Over 1 million people a year die from one of the various forms of hepatitis. Now, I was having a discussion with somebody last night about this, and as I cited those case numbers, their argument kind of went against them. They tried to make a point, and they didn't level it in their head that what they were actually saying proved my point, not theirs. But there's treatments and vaccines for these. There's treatments for tuberculosis. There's hepatitis vaccines. There's treatments for hepatitis. And yet millions of people a year are dying from these other infectious diseases. This is just another infectious disease. Yes, it's deadly. I'm not going to get into the death counts being skewed. There's enough junk out on the media that you can research yourself and see that some people that died of other issues, if they had COVID, it was listed as a COVID death. There's been medical examiners and state's attorneys that have stated that in interviews. We know that hospitals are reimbursed. They get federal dollars for every COVID case that they find. They're incentivized to find COVID cases. And then they're even more incentivized if they have to treat them. I wouldn't say this part is incentivized, but there is federal dollars for reimbursement for having a COVID inpatient being treated in your facility. And my understanding is that that's on top of the reimbursement that the hospital would normally get from insurance. So there's some stuff going on that just, we're so early into this, and I know that this started back at the beginning of the year, and it's July. We're still early into this disease process to fully understand it, to fully know what the true facts are behind it. So again, my position hasn't changed. Take it serious. People are actually dying from it. I know a couple people personally that have had COVID, and they've been very sick and in the hospital, and just take it serious. On that note, the masks. The wear of face masks is now one of the biggest crying things out in public. So let's talk about that for a second. The demand or the public order that you wear a face mask in public does not violate a constitutional right. It might be uncomfortable. It itches the shit out of my beard. But it's not a constitutional violation. Now, what shop owners and merchants and other people are doing with that, if you refuse to comply, that could get into where there's a constitutional violation. And I'm not a constitutional attorney. I'm a healthcare nerd, former combat medic, and not an attorney. But this is what I do know from looking at it. If you have a underlying health condition to where your primary care provider or treating physician has said that you should not wear a mask, if they ask you any questions about that, if they counter you, well, what's your condition? That is protected under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and you don't have to answer that question, right? Demanding that going into your medical history, that could get into some Fourth Amendment grounds. But keep in mind, a shop owner should have the right to refuse service to anybody. And as a consumer, you have the right to go to a different shop and spend your money. Everybody wants to make a platform stance right now. Everybody wants their voice to be heard, including me. I run a podcast. But everybody wants to make political statements. Some of them are very uneducated and some of them are very unfounded. So we're in a very weird time right now. I've never thought that I would witness an actual transition of history. We watch history being made every day. I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. I know that that's historic. But I think elemental to the United States of America, what it's going to look like in 5 to 10 years, I think there's a transition point, a tipping point that we're in right now. So everybody wants to make some kind of a political statement. We need less political statements and we need more community leadership and activity. I personally don't believe, my personal belief, because I've read research, peer-reviewed articles and research papers published before 2019 on the wear of face coverings and surgical masks. The research historically is not there to support it. But when you see me out in public, I've got a mask on. I'm going to be compliant. It's not that I like it, but, kind of go back to Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Know when to engage and know when to disengage. And if the wear of a face mask is your battle that you want to fight, then you fucking fight that battle to the best of your ability. To me, it's just not worth fighting it. I hold, the positions that I hold for my job, my volunteer positions. I own a nonprofit. I'm going to look like an idiot and I'm going to do damage to the projects and the work that I care about by trying to prove a statement. Yeah, I don't personally believe in them, but it doesn't hurt me to wear them. It itches my beard. Okay, then I got to deal with that. So enough on the masks, right? You do what you want to do. I'd advise you to do research. If you do research, look at peer-reviewed scientific journal articles published before 2019, and then form your own opinion. If you're a community leader and it bugs the shit out of you, be the voice of change, right? You can sit and bitch and make memes on Facebook all the time, but Facebook has not changed one political agenda there is. Get involved in your local council. Get involved in contacting your legislatures. Cite empirical data. Cite no shit real research. Don't cite I saw some shit on Facebook. So enough on that. Coronavirus, still a real thing, still impacting our lives every day. So next, I want to give a real quick shout out to Rob, the Warrior Strategist. This guy that I met on Facebook, another veteran advocate. He's a business strategist, got a PhD, is a teacher, and just an all-around smart dude. And I've grown to respect him. And we've never met. He's down in San Diego. I'm all the way up in Alaska. But we follow each other. Good network contact. He was reviewing some books that are on his current reading list a couple weeks ago, and I broke down and bought one based off of Rob's recommendation, Breaking Buds by D.H. Xavier. Yep. So let me clarify my intent on reading this book right now, and I think why Rob recommended it as well. I have no false thoughts that I'm going to become a Navy SEAL and I'm going to figure out how to break buds at almost 48 years old. There's some life lessons and there's some mental aperture and mindset, motivation, encouragement, lessons from Navy SEALs trying to teach other people who want to be Navy SEALs how to break the code to be successful at buds. The majority of getting into the elite top tier things is all mental anyway. The majority of business and strategy in life is mental. There's good lessons learned here. I'm in 20-some pages in. I just got it delivered the other day. I'm really liking what I see so far. I've skimmed through. So that's a book recommendation. Breaking Buds, D.H. Xavier, Navy SEAL. They don't like to be called Navy SEALs, I've learned. They prefer Team Guy or Frogman. So anyway, Rob, thanks for the recommendation. I'm enjoying the book so far. That's about it for our weekly update. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a moment. Taryn Peplow is going to join me in the studio. It'll seem like in about 3 seconds, but in about 2 hours, we'll get started, and we're going to have some fun talking about stereotypes across the branches of service. So stay tuned. It's coming up. And we're back. As I promised, Taryn's back in the studio. The show today, again, as I talked in the opening segments, there's so much just bullshit going on in the world. We wanted to just kind of have a fun show.
Yeah, something lighthearted and make everybody laugh.
Yeah, there's enough political bullshit, insurrection, just COVID disease stuff going on. So we just kind of wanted to do a show about stereotypes in the military. Making fun of us. And Taryn and I had agreed when we set this show up that we were going to, just to keep from hurting everyone's feelings, because we can be assholes, we would start by insulting each other. I would talk about SF stereotypes, and he'd talk about medic stereotypes.
Surprisingly easy to find stereotypes on medics.
Surprisingly hard to find stereotypes on Green Berets. And so about the only, when I tried to do research and some due diligence here, and everything online was about this female passing Q course. Congratulations. That's going to change the landscape of that, but I don't want to talk about that on the show. This is supposed to be about fun. I don't want to create controversy today other than hurting some people's feelings maybe.
Yep.
So other than that, really, the only stereotypes were that, Green Berets are honed trained killers and love to kill people.
And that's not a bad stereotype, I don't think.
That's
pretty good.
That's kind of what you guys get paid to do.
So I was looking through all these stereotypes.
Yeah.
And the first one I came across, and it made me think and kind of wondered to myself why you joined to be a medic.
Mm-hmm. Was
the only reason you joined the Army to be a medic was to look at other service members' dicks?
That wasn't the first reason.
Not the only reason.
That's not the only reason. So ladies and gentlemen, he has a fucking page.
Yeah.
Of,
like I said, surprisingly easy.
Medic stereotypes. My primary reason for joining the service was not to meet gays. It was just a fringe benefit.
Right.
What, next?
Yeah. And then that brings it to the silver bullet. We know what the silver bullet is. Does anybody else know what the silver bullet is? Dave, explain to us what the silver bullet is. And is that a perk of your job?
No. So here's the thing. I've heard of the silver bullet only most recently. Okay.
And I had to Google what the actual what it meant too. But
my son, who's getting ready to hopefully join the military, was talking with somebody in an online forum, and the term silver bullet came up, and he came to me. He's like, "Dad, you know what about the silver bullet is?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a big fucking thing of coffee." He goes, "No." And so he starts telling me about some steel rod that goes up somebody's rectum, damn near killed him.
It's a thermometer, right? I mean, I think that's what.
Yeah, I don't know. And so he's trying to explain it to me, and I'm like, I was a medic for 20 years, and
You just called it a thermometer up the butt, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a chocolate-flavored thermometer.
There you go.
Yeah.
The words changed. Silver bullet, gentlemen and ladies, is a thermometer up the butt.
We'll go with that.
Another perk of being a medic.
Right. Yep. Gauging sphincter tone is required. And keep in mind, if you do want to be a Green Beret, you have to let a guy like me
You got to get it.
do that.
Yep. There are far worse things, I think, than that. But that's the thing everybody remembers.
Yeah. So what else about my career field?
All right. So another one I liked was the treatments that medics prescribe. Did you, as a medic, were you able to prescribe medication to people? Or was it just Motrin, a change of socks, and a bottle of water?
I have gone on patrols with nothing but Motrin, socks, and water.
Yep, that fixes a lot of stuff.
That fixes a lot of, and dirt. If you can carry a pocket full of dirt, you can rub dirt in it too. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of my career, I was pretty highly trained and, did extra cool stuff. And so that's not the only thing I prescribed, but I gave that advice.
It's a good start.
A lot. It's a good start.
It's a good start. Yep.
Yeah. That's a foundation block.
Dude, I have taken ibuprofen for a lot of shit.
Yeah.
That has solved the problems.
Oh, he got his arm blown off. Give him Motrin. Come on, rub some dirt in it. Let's go.
That's it.
It'll buff out.
Essential oils. Start carrying an essential oil pack. I saw there's a meme about PJs, and the guy's got his leg blown off. And
We'll go to the Air Force in a little bit.
And the guy's like, fuck, Carl, you got that lavender. Put that lavender on my arm. I'll be great.
That sounds like some very Air Force shit.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep. Got the essential oils.
Yep. All right. What else?
So, well, talking about essential oils, that brings me, I'll take a break from the medic stuff. There is an entire page written by military spouses on military spouse stereotypes. They've got a list of 35 stereotypes for themselves that they wrote themselves online.
I think we should get into that. And ladies and gentlemen, I came up with this, and I want to use it because I thought it was good. When we were kind of pre-gaming before the show, it's important to note that in the Jurassic Park series, there was one very ferocious animal that was left out because they thought it would just be too frightening for children if they watched the movie, and that is the Dependopotamus.
Yeah, and I think you've had a show about explaining what a Dependopotamus was.
We did
a little bit.
It did come up. It was briefly mentioned. For those that don't know, there's Army wives, like your wife and my wife, that support us, that push us to be greater and bigger and improve ourselves and to be the best at what we can be. And
without them, we would be nowhere.
Absolutely.
For myself, without my
too.
wife, I'd be drunk in a gutter somewhere.
That last week. Anyway.
Yeah, but she picks me up and brings me home.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're not still drunk in the gutter.
Drunk in a gutter, but she brings me home.
Yeah. So and then there's the Dependopotamus, looking for the land of the free PX. Had me at TRICARE.
That's it.
Yeah. So looking for the free ticket in the Army welfare program or the military welfare program.
And that's the first two stereotypes that I found on this list of 35 military spouses was we're all fat and we're all lazy, which those two I can cross off the list because my wife is not fat or lazy.
Nope.
She's hot. So that's one that I can cross off the list. Another one was that they all sell Sensi, 31, Mary Kay, and baskets, Longaberger baskets, which that one I think may be true at one point or another.
So let's defend that one for just a second. And here's why. We're a finite community. We're a nomadic community. We pick up, and team guys are a little different. For conventional soldiers like me, we pick up a move every 2 to 3 years. I was actually on station at one point for 20 months, less than 2 years, 2 NCOERs, got my staff time checked, and I'm out. Our wives are the ones whose career suffers.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get in and stabilize yourself in a career field when you're literally up and moving in less than 2 years, 2 years, 3 years. And so they find ways to make, residual income or other income. And there's some things that, given the lifestyle of what we do, in that kind of nomadic lifestyle, world traveler lifestyle is just a kind of a positive to it. There's certain sell at home type products that
they can take with them and travel
makes sense that they can. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Because you didn't mention Pampered Chef.
Oh yeah, hey, they make some good stuff.
They've got their little.
That's how I cook my SpaghettiOs.
That's right.
That little microwave bowl.
The ramen noodle bowl. That's what we call it at the house, is the ramen noodle bowl.
That's it.
Yeah. So there is some truth to that one, and there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Some people take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
My wife, who had been a distributor for some of the aforementioned, did so because we got a great fucking discount.
Oh yeah.
We can buy the stuff on the cheap.
And everybody buys it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
So another one that I read, the last one on this spouses thing, that I wish were true.
Uh-oh.
Right? It says from this website, WeCon TRICARE, which is the healthcare for active duty military.
Mm-hmm.
WeCon TRICARE into giving us all breast implants. God, I wish that were true. I don't think it happens as much as people may think.
Right. I'd not heard that.
I hadn't either.
There's a very popular meme category that I think really originated within the military community that's now infected in the civilian community, and that is the culture of Karen.
Oh yeah.
So Karen,
which is now a hate crime.
Right?
If you call someone a Karen.
So Karen, for those that don't know the fictitious origins of the Karen started off as a first sergeant's wife. That's they had
we apologize if your spouse
if you're a first sergeant and your wife's name is Karen and she has a bob haircut.
It may not have been your wife.
I'm sorry. Maybe not. But yeah, just I want to talk to your manager, complaining about everything publicly, finding fault in everybody and everything and holding themselves to a higher standard. That's not new, civilian folks. We've been living with that shit for years.
That's right.
It's called the FRG.
Yep.
And I can say that my wife was an FRG leader, FRG key color. As I worked my way up the ladder, she unfortunately was drug up the ladder in FRG as well.
And for those of you, family readiness group, right?
Yep.
So those of you who aren't veterans or listening who don't know what it is, it's the spouses and family when we deploy.
It does.
That keep track of everything. And
it actually serves an integral purpose in keeping the spouses informed on what's happening as far as updates, news. Yeah. When there is an unfortunate incident that happens downrange, getting a lot of the coordination for care after official notification is made. Again, this whole show is to make fun of our own culture. Some of it's true, and some of it's just plain having fun with it. But a lot of what we talk about is, it's just stereotypes. Stereotypes do exist for a reason, though. Just keep that in mind.
They originated from somewhere.
Right. So a joke that I had seen and I wanted to share, I think because it tells some of the inter-service rivalry stereotypes really well. The Marines are ordered to secure a building and they toss grenades through the windows. They rush spraying automatic weapons fire and they kill everything in sight. The Army is ordered to secure the building next to the Marines and they set up claymores. They establish a perimeter, string concertina wire, set up firing positions. They make range card sketches and they start a guard schedule. Well, the Air Force is ordered to secure the building next to them. And they did so by taking out a 10-year lease with an option to buy, and they made several upgrades, starting with air conditioning.
And that is 100% true.
That is 100% true.
Coming from the Army active and then Army Guard, and now in the Air Guard, for myself, I see the vast...
Are you still in the Air Guard?
I am. Seeing the vast difference in the services.
Yeah. And I grew up in an Air Force household.
Yeah, oh yeah. Both my parents were Air Force.
And
I joined the Army because I didn't want to be bored.
Yeah, and I joined, I think I talked about it in a previous episode. I joined the Army because I didn't want to live under my dad's umbrella.
Yep.
Because, and again, the Air Force is political.
Yep.
Right? The Army could give two shits less on who my dad was when I was a young private. I would have never known if I went in the Air Force, whether it was because
of him or
I'm Chief Joslin's kid, or if it was because I'm just another Joslin.
Yep.
So yeah, let's rag on the Air Force for a little bit. They don't like to stay, you know, their version of a deployment's a hotel. They go on deployment to places where we go on R&R, and that's true.
Yeah, 100%. And their deployments, and it's funny, and you know, I'm in the Guard, so I hear people talk about their deployments.
Yep.
And a few of them have, you know, a lot of Afghan deployments, a lot of Iraq deployments, but their general idea of a deployment is to Kuwait for 2 or 3 months.
Right.
And that's their deployment.
Yep.
And I think that's probably why the Air Force started out, or they don't wear combat patches, and the Army does wear combat patches, because the Air Force would be a little embarrassed to wear a combat patch for 3 months in Kuwait.
Yeah. They have to have cell phone service and cable where they go.
Yep.
And here's something that's not necessarily a stereotype, but true, but it just feeds on the, just the persona of the Air Force being kind of spoiled and having to have the lap of luxury everywhere they go. If they stay in our barracks, they get paid a substandard living allowance.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm still waiting for a school date.
Yep.
It's on an Army base that this school is at. And because the Army barracks don't meet the Air Force standards and I'm prior service, I get a hotel room in the city.
Well, that sucks.
It's a long-term hotel room that I get to stay in while I'm going through the training, because the Army doesn't meet the standards of the Air Force.
That's not a stereotype.
It's true.
Actually
and going
true.
from both sides of the fence, like now
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with it. Yeah, sure.
The Marines, I did some research and tried to find the origins of the stereotype about Marines eating crayons.
Crayon.
And I cannot find anywhere the origins of it. But, you know.
That just means they've been eating crayons for as long as the world can remember.
That's right, yeah. Nobody knows when it began.
They were founded on crayons.
Just does. Yeah, you know, in that, there was some commentary on, there was a Reddit that talked about it, and just talked about they're considered to be brainwashed and lack common sense and knowledge, and they're just kind of drones and robots.
Some truth to it, I guess. A little bit of brainwash, but I think we're all a little bit of brainwashed.
I don't think you're in any branch of service without at least drinking your own Kool-Aid a little bit.
Yep.
Navy's just all fat and gay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just go on. I have a lot of friends in the Navy.
Friends in the Navy?
Yeah, and I talk about that with them all the time. I made a joke to one Glenn from Phoenix Project. We posted his part of his interview on YouTube, and I made a joke about him being a gay dancer one time, and he told me, Glenn, I apologize, I'm putting this out there, but he was actually a go-go dancer at a gay bar.
He agreed.
Yeah, he concurred that happened.
It pays well.
Well, that's what he said too. I mean, Glenn's a very fit dude. He's probably 6'3". He's the tallest leprechaun I know because he's got red hair. Yep. And he's like, dude, I made so much money.
People pay a lot of money for that.
Yeah, so good on him.
No shame.
Nope, none at all.
Good for him.
I saw a lot the stereotype that we cuss a lot.
And that's 100% fucking true.
That's absolutely fucking true. I don't know why.
I think they're well placed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And again, stereotypes exist for a reason.
Yeah. Thank God my kids don't follow in my footsteps yet. I've got a 10, an 8, and a 5-year-old, and I don't hold back when I speak at the house. So they get a whole lot of fucks and shits, and and luckily they don't carry it on.
Mine are 21 and 18, and I'm pretty sure they carry it on. I don't live under some umbrella of disbelief that they're.
Well, I haven't got a call from the school yet saying my 5th grader has cussed the teacher out. So not yet, at least.
So our son, when I was stationed at Fort Hood, Aaron was in kindergarten, and that would put Taylor in 3rd grade. Yeah. And so I dropped Christy off at work, because she actually worked for TRICARE, not just trying to get TRICARE. And so I dropped Christy off at work. I'm driving the kids to school, getting to play dad, which doesn't happen very often. So kind of relishing the opportunity to be a dad. And, so our daughter, her whole life, like she'd talk in her sleep just incessantly, blah, blah, blah. And she probably gets that from me because I know I talk a lot. And I had Christy's minivan, we had a typical soccer mom minivan, 3 rows of seating, and we put Aaron in one row and Taylor in the other so they couldn't fight, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going down the road, and Aaron goes, "Taylor, would you shut the fuck up?" And I was like, just kind of over. I'm like, "What did you say?" And he starts crying, right? Because he knows he's in trouble.
Yep.
Right? And he goes, "But she just won't stop talking." And then as a dad, I'm like, well,
it's hard to be mad.
He used it in proper context. I don't know if I should be mad about this or not. Yeah.
Try not to say that word, but
right.
well done on the English.
We're going to talk about this with Mom later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my kids, they're,
yeah.
So
it's a word.
It's a
word. They're
word.
just words.
Yeah.
And words hurt people.
Words do hurt.
Words hurt feelings.
Bullets hurt worse.
Yeah, they do. The fastest way to a man's heart.
Yeah.
556.
That's right.
Yep.
I saw a lot of stereotypes about ring knockers. And if you're a civilian watching the show, if you don't know what a ring knocker is, that's a term of endearment for an academy graduate. So they're like a secret society. They've all got their graduation ring from their year group of when they graduate the academy, and they take care of each other. And here's the thing, it's a fraternity. Yep. It's very much like a fraternal organization, and they do take care of each other. I mean, is the military community in general, we take care of each other, we try to, and then as you narrow down that
small, make the community smaller within the
right.
The
of course they take care of each other, but the stereotypes about the ring knockers is they're all just waiting for their general star. That they've got this mentality that everything that happens from the day that they become a lieutenant and get their commission until they get their star is just filler.
All for one goal. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've seen some people that hold that true. Again, as said many times, stereotypes exist for a reason.
Yep, and I have seen a few that don't hold that true.
I have seen some that don't hold that to be true and
which
are
very the exception.
I do think that they're the exception. Yeah. But when I think of my career in the most exceptional leaders that I've seen, the most exceptional leaders that I have followed, they've been, by and large, that exception of academy graduates.
Exactly. Yep.
So when they get it right, when the academies get it right, they get it right. They produce some stellar leaders.
Yep.
But like anybody, there's I think combat medics are I'm biased, the best career field in the military. We have a real world mission all the time, and we're the second largest military occupational specialty in the United States Army, next to infantry. And that means just we have the second largest population of shitbags. Yeah. I mean, everybody has their own garbage.
So I did find another stereotype that I didn't write down, but about medics that you either get the really shit hot ones that are phenomenal and then you want, or you get the ones that you don't want anywhere near you.
Yeah.
There's no in between. You get the good ones that that will save your life, and you get the other ones that you don't want touching you.
Yeah. And I don't think that's a stereotype. I think by and large, there's people that live in that middle space.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to be qualified to speak for my whole career group. But there are people. So for those that don't know much about medics, we operate in kinetic or operational teams and operational environments and brigade combat teams and everybody else. And we also operate in hospitals. Mm-hmm. And where I kind of broke the mold in my career is I would go from a line unit to a hospital to a line unit to a hospital to a line unit. And I bounced back and forth, which has kind of really helped me when I got out of the military to be marketable. Within the medic community, I don't want to say combat medic community because half of it is not combat medic. Within the medic community, there's the line dogs. There's the guys that perform very well in austere medicine. They're the ones that are really good at wanting to save your life. Mm-hmm. And they want to do it. They're passionate about it. And then there's what's important to know is a lot of those guys that are at the top of the cream of the crop in the line units, a lot of those guys would not survive in a hospital because a hospital is very political.
I can imagine, yeah. Different.
Right, and it's evidence-based medicine, not TC3.
Yep.
Right? TC3 and regular medicine are different practices of medicine. TC3 is tactical combat casualty care.
Bullet hole. Plug.
Yeah, bullet hole.
Yep.
Fucking stick a finger in it. So, and then you have the folks that do really well in the hospital. They're good at the administrative side of medicine. Yep. They're good at patient relationships and being a patient advocate. They're good at management of multidisciplinary staffs, like
2 totally different jobs.
Nurses and medics or civilians. And those people are stellar in that role, in that environment, but they would never survive on the line, and they fear the line.
And listed under the same, under the same job, right? They're all
correct. Yeah, we're whiskeys. All 68 whiskeys.
So two totally different jobs, 2 different lifestyles, 2 separate everything, basically.
Yeah. And
under the same listing.
Yep. And I made it serious. I didn't want to have a serious show, but I really, although they are fat and gay, the Navy does things, I think, a lot. They do their medics well. No pun intended about the fat and gay joke.
They do their medics well?
They fucking do their medics well. So they have the Navy corpsmen.
Yep.
And then to be a combat medic for them, what we call a combat medic, they have to go to Fleet Marine School. They have to go and become a Fleet Marine corpsman. And they get some kind of designator in their job classification code that designates them as a Fleet Marine corpsman. And then those are the people that are qualified and trained. They go through the second phase of combat medic school for us. They go through the tactical combat casualty care version or portion, and then they're qualified to be assigned to Marines, Marine units, and support combat action units. Not every Navy corpsman does that.
So they've got to follow the track on their own, or they've got to pursue that ability to get out on the line.
And then the Air Force and the Navy both have kind of an independent duty medic or an independent, there's an IDC, an independent duty corpsman or an independent duty medic program. And that I really do like, not to get totally into my career field. That I think is the right way of doing it too, because, I was an independent duty medic in Afghanistan, but we didn't have a classification for it. They had to write me a very long counseling statement that said, this is what your scope of practice is. We're going to allow you to operate autonomously, blah, 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 blah.
And that's the beauty of the military. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
So you know what? We trust Doug.
Yep.
Hey, you can go prescribe whatever Motrin and new socks.
Yeah, you watched enough videos.
Yep.
We're going to let you do this.
You are okay.
You graduate from Motrin to naproxen.
Blessed.
Yes.
Yep. So that brings up another one.
Okay.
That about medics, and I'll say before I say this one, I'll debunk it already, because
thank you.
In my time on a team, our senior medic and junior medic, our senior medic, Heath, if you listen to this, I'm talking about you, he was a shooter first, and he told everybody that, and the medics, like, you got to finish the gunfight before you.
The best medicine on the battlefield is fire superiority.
That's it. Yeah. And so the stereotype of medics aren't shooters is, I think, one that probably originated way back when, but now is, I think, mostly false, at least in combat units.
Yeah, I would thank you for that, and I would agree with that. I think prior to global war on terror, medics were probably by and large that combat service support element. I mean, we are by doctrine a CSS element, but the global war on terror, guys in your world were the specialists in guerrilla warfare and asymmetrical warfare. The global war on terror made everybody operate in the asymmetrical environment.
Yep.
Which I think that's where you saw new changes in TC3 come out. When I went through medic school in 94, we were made deathly afraid of putting a tourniquet on anybody. And now it's a first line treatment.
Yep. You got to put 2 on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, the battlefield, unfortunately, is the greatest laboratory for advancing medicine. So there's been a lot of changes to that. And where historically and you think of Band of Brothers, right? Doc Rowe. There's a legend within our community and highly respected. Doc Rowe didn't engage the medics in World War II. And I don't know, I've heard stories about medics in Vietnam engaging, but again, that's asymmetrical battlefield there as well, because it was guerrilla warfare. And I think the element of guerrilla warfare is what caused that to change, because you couldn't have somebody just sitting there
not working,
not pulling a trigger.
Yep.
To win the fight,
fire superiority. Yep.
So everybody had to be a gunner first. And that was something that was one of the things that I very much enjoyed, part of my job in Afghanistan is, on our little outpost at Cop Libert, I had my own battle position.
Yeah.
It was right outside my aid station. And if nobody was hurt, I was on my gun and I was laying it down and I was in the fight. And if somebody got hit, then we worked evac. The aid station was a hard stand. It was a stone rock building, and I would go in and treat and stabilize. And if that person was stable, I'd put a junior medic with them, or I'd put somebody, a CLS to stay with them. Maybe one of the talk bitches, because we shared we'll get into talk bitches in a second. I'd get one of them to monitor.
Yep.
And I'd get back on the gun and get back out and fight.
That's probably one of the good progressions through the military, through our wars we've had, is it's all focused on self-care first, having the resources now to give every soldier and Marine or whoever, give everybody a tourniquet and a combat gauze and bandages and things like that, where you're expected to self-care to begin with. And gone are the days of getting shot and just yelling, medic, help me. You're expected to take care of yourself first, and that's how everything's taught. So the progression of that.
Well, and with that progression, so see, we're going to get serious. The cascading effect of that.
I tried to make it funny. But
I know you did. And it is funny, but then we got serious. The cascading effect of that is we now carry less equipment in our aid bag,
which allows you to carry more
which
rounds,
allows us to carry more bullets.
Mags. Yep.
And instead of, every medic having an M9 or a pistol sidearm assigned to them,
for an M4.
We're all carrying M4s and a standard battle load of 7 magazines.
Or in my medic's case, a SCAR heavy with a bunch of mags.
I had a 249. I had a 249 in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And I was pretty good with it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, so if everybody has their own IFAC and their own tourniquet, we would, and then you've got more CLS providers and CLS bags distributed.
Makes your job easier.
Yeah. I'm not carrying 8 IV bags out with me. So I can, not that I'm carrying lighter, I'm just carrying different.
Yep.
So
that brings up the one that's not really funny, but it's a stereotype, that all medics are supplied with equipment that's expired. Is that true? Were they bringing, did you get mostly issued expired shit that?
No.
The response says it all.
We would not get originally issued expired shit. Yep. And again, the battlefields in Iraq and Afghanistan allowed us to realize some failure points and improve them. Mm-hmm. We would you get issued your MES set, your medical equipment set, right? And that's the big green trunks that have all your blood stopping equipment, all your pharmaceuticals, all your syringes. It's, for a battalion aid station on a mechanized infantry battalion in Cav Squadron. And when I was the platoon sergeant at Cav Squadron, we had, I want to say a better count of 50 MES chests for the squadron aid station and for a forward aid station if we had to jump an aid station light forward. And so you get issued all of that. And then, a lot of it's maintenance, right? We don't use it because that's our go to war kit.
Yep.
Right. And so we inventory it quarterly. Sometimes we inventory it monthly, depending on operational cycle and how close we're getting. But then, you get this bulk issue, which means you're going to get a bulk expiration.
Yep.
Right.
And you got to cycle
And
through
if,
this stuff.
and if you're, and then you get your aid station supplies on from a different order, right? Cause this is your go to war kit. And then you're not, it's not FIFO inventory, right? It's not first in, first out, it's first in and hold until you need it. And then you FIFO inventory your active everyday stuff. And so when I got to Afghanistan, when I got to my aid station at Libert, and that was the first thing I did was go through and inventory stuff.
Yep.
And I had stuff that had expired. I was there in 2008 and I was throwing stuff away that expired in 2005.
Yeah. My only experience with expired medicine, I think, was on the teams when we went through a heavy night of drinking and that was the opportunity to use expired IV bags.
Well,
and I'm still alive and hydrated. So
yeah. IV bags, expired IV bags serve multiple purposes.
they blow up really well.
You can use them for shape charges.
Yep.
As long as, so medics, under the appropriate conditions, not every day, we can extend an IV bag by 6 months past its expiration by doing a visual inspection. Right. There's some challenges. I had, and the supply chains are a little bit different downrange too. And I think we talked on a previous show about, the 18 Delta that was on the camp with me, Dusty. I was out of ET tubes and we'd been, getting IED quite heavily and I needed some more, innovation tubes. So I go to Dusty and I'm like, hey dude, I'm red on ET tubes. I don't know if your supply chain is better than mine or whatever. And he's able to get some that day. Now there was already a supply drop coming into the ODA that was on our camp with us. But they had like Israeli labels on them. They were not American.
It's all how you acquire shit.
Right. So, but yeah, it was, there's some truth to that. It's not uncommon. Some of it has to go down to just good supply management too.
Yeah. And that might not just be the medic field. When I was in school for.
Yeah, but who monitors the expiration dates of bullets?
Well, that's right. So explosives.
Right.
When I was in school for the explosive portion of the 18 Charlie for the engineer program, we were using det cord and time fuse from the 50s. And I didn't go through the school in the 60s. The stuff was 50 years old that was still in the inventory, still trying to cycle through and get rid of.
Wow.
You go through the ASP and pull out this old 50-year-old shit and, well, fuck, it's training. We might still use it if it goes off. Great. If not, we'll fucking deal with that then.
How many misfires or how many misdetonations?
I don't think there was that many.
Right.
I think
it's pretty stable.
And it's sealed really well.
Right.
So you pop it open, it smells like 50-year-old shit. But yeah, so that might just be the military cycling through shit, and you're always going to have unused stuff that needs to be cycled through.
Well, and with the government always being under continuing resolution funding, and nobody wants to look at, it's the right decision, but nobody wants to look at $20,000 worth of expired medical supplies and burn it and throw it out. Like that's 20 grand of shit right there.
Yep. And people laugh at me now because, and it may be a stereotype, but I save everything.
Right.
Like in the military, deployed, like fuck that. That might come in handy. I'm gonna keep that half a roll of fucking of duct tape that's melted. Like, so that's carried on with me in the civilian world, and I collect a lot of shit that I probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
For fear of not having it later on,
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm mentally working through my garage right now going, yeah, I've got a bunch of just shit.
A lot of collected crap that in my experience, a lot of my civilian friends who were not prior military throw away immediately or get rid of, or buy more, or I'll get this. And it's shit that I'll save for fear that I may not be able to find it again.
Right. What else?
So I got coming back, I came across the PT stuff, right? Physical therapy, or not physical therapy. I'm doing physical therapy. Physical training.
Right.
Right. The stereotypes between the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marines and the Army. So the Air Force does PT, and I can attest to this now that I'm in the Guard. And I think the Guard may be one step cushier than the active Air Force. But the Air Force, when they do PT, they line up, they stretch for 5 minutes, they take a lap around the track, and then they go home for a shower and show up for breakfast. There may be some Zumba in between some of those. You know, it may be a Friday and it might be a Zumba day.
Wow.
No shit. Yeah. Talk about embarrassment in the Guard, standing in the gym next to the Army guys doing fucking Zumba while the Army's doing real work. And thinking to myself, what decisions have I made to get myself to this point now? Boy, I miss being in the middle of nowhere, blowing shit up. And
Yeah.
so anyway, Air Force, Zumba, stretching, going home. The Navy, they line up, do 10 push-ups, 10 jumping jacks, 10 sit-ups, run a mile, and then all play volleyball.
I mean, it's that
Fair
scene
enough.
from Top Gun.
Yeah,
Of course
that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
And then the Marines and the Army, I'm not sure what the fuck we did, but it took all day
Right.
to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some truth to that, I think.
I think it is. And I think, and again, I think that we've made a good habit of either debunking or defending some of the stereotypes. I think it's mission oriented.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we, especially because so back in, I've done a lot of focus on the medicals, or on the medics, hospital PT versus line medic PT.
It's going to be a little different.
It is going to be way fucking different.
Yep.
You know, on the line unit, we did line PT. It was whatever everybody else was doing.
Yep.
And because the medics always seem to be the platoon that the sergeant major loves to hate, you know, when it was on every other week or whatever day of the week, whenever it was platoon level PT, you know, sergeant major's always cruising by the medic area to see where we're doing PT and what we're doing because they think that we're all shamming and slacking. And the irony is that we probably trained as hard, if not harder, than the kinetic platoons or the other company guys. And when I was the platoon sergeant, even as a squad leader, what I would try to instill into my medics was we have to be the most physically fit person on the battlefield, because you don't ever get blown up on the first hour patrol.
Nope. And,
So-
and the people you're saving are...
Or bigger, they're just fucking monsters, or some of them are fat. Yeah, so we got to be just as tired, just as hungry, and just as crabby as everybody else, and then be at our best game.
Yep.
Right. And then hospital PT,
Does that go along lines of the Air Force PT?
worse actually. Yeah.
Watch a video of other people PTing?
So they go to the gym and then they do a formation at the beginning in the gym parking lot, and then it's a release into the gym.
And kind of do what you want.
Kind of do what you want. And then there would be okay, we'll meet back out here in 45 minutes, and another formation. And
that's the guy
there's
sitting on
dudes-
the rowers just...
yeah.
I rode like 16 times this
Yeah.
hour.
So when I got to Fort Wainwright, I'd just come from Cav Squadron, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck is this? So I tell my platoon, I'm like, hey, we're meeting, Thursday morning, we're going to meet at the base of Birch Hill at 04. Have your rucksack, 25 pounds of gear in it.
And you probably blew these kids' minds.
And they were just
They're
like,
rucksack.
the fuck are we doing? And so we get out there, and I'm like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're hiking up the ski slope. They were like, what the? So, we went straight up the face of Birch Hill, which isn't really that big. I think it's 800 feet of vertical. It's a ski slope. It was in the summer.
Yep.
And then we walked down the tank trails around the back to the cars. And then we started doing this weekly. After the first day, so back at the hospital, because we had a 7:30 work call because we had a live healthcare mission.
Yeah.
So I had to backwards plan and move the time up. And so the Joes are getting back to the hospital and they're complaining, right? who the fuck is this cavalry guy showing up and blah, 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 blah. And so I had a civilian nurse come up to me. She said, "Hey, Sergeant Joslin, I want to talk to you about your PT program." I was like, "The fuck are you talking to me about my PT program for, civilian?" You know, this is a hospital and not that reconnaissance unit you just came from. And I'm like, let me explain something to you. If these soldiers are lucky, when they leave this hospital in 3 years, they will go to a unit like what I just came from. And if we wait to hold them accountable to the standards until they get there, they fail that whole unit. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it's actually my job to make them ready at all times. And I take that serious. But yeah, I got lectured by my staff all day. Yep. So we do it again the next week. And it was by about the 4th week of doing a weekly road march. The soldier in them came back.
They stopped complaining and
they looked forward to it.
Yep.
And they were like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then there was, we do it a little bit more. And then because we're Alaska, winter sets in. I'm like, I go to my first sergeant and I'm like, I need like 26 snowshoes. Like we're doing snowshoe PTO winter. Yeah. That's what the line guys are doing down the street, at 125. We need to be doing that kind of PT too. And they're like, "Cool, here you go, just sign them out." Once we started doing snowshoe PT in that the first winter I was up there, then the esprit de corps
kind of came back. Yep.
And then there were soldiers from other platoons within the hospital, other elements within the hospital. "Hey, Sergeant Jay, can I do PT with you and your guys?"
There's a lot to be said for going through a little bit of suck.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck forever.
Yeah.
When you go through the suck more often,
yep,
it starts to suck less.
Well, yeah.
And you start enjoying
the sense of accomplishment, and to me, one of the thoughts that I had, and at the time, I didn't think that I was going to retire in Alaska and stay in Alaska. I'm like, dude, have an Alaskan memory.
Yeah.
Get out of your fucking barracks room and,
see stuff. Yeah.
Do stuff. Do Alaskan stuff. If you're in Alaska for 3 years in the military and you don't ever put snowshoes on your feet, you fucking wasted 3 years of your life.
Yep.
So part of it was getting them to enjoy the opportunity that they had, because people pay big money to come up here and put snowshoes on their feet.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it was good to see the soldier element come back and then the esprit de corps kick in. But yeah, within the hospitals, hospital medics are fucking soft donuts. Yeah.
Yeah. And going from the Army to the Army Guard to the Air Guard, like there's a place for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I, if you want to join and be soft, then join and be soft. There's a place for you.
Right.
If you want to join and do cool shit and be hard, there's a place for that too.
Right.
So you can't have one without the other.
Right.
And they all support the infantry anyway. So.
Yep. Yeah, they do. Everything about the military
supports the infantry.
Supports the infantry.
NSF.
Yeah. So the one thing I did find about Special Forces is, and it was consistent across Green Berets and Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
Navy SEALs don't like to be called Navy SEALs, and Green Berets don't like to be called Green Berets.
What do we like to be called?
Well, in this book, Breaking Buds, that I'm reading right now, evidently within their culture, they just prefer the term team guy or frogman.
Yeah, I see that. I think we talked about in episode 11, the one I was on, about operator. That's
about
what we
operator.
Talked about. Yeah. The term operator.
Yes.
We never
Everyone's
called
operating.
Operator.
Yeah.
We were team guys.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll say, I think the SEALs are a little different because they all write books. They're all in movies. Like in the book that I perused through while I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
I said, we like to be called the silent professionals. The SEALs. I think those fuckers stole that from the Green Berets because
you guys are the silent professionals. We're the silent
professionals. I don't think I've ever met a SEAL who was a silent professional. Professional, yeah. Maybe not silent.
So my categorization or my cascading of silent professionals.
Yep.
Army Green Berets and Delta Force, and then Army Rangers, and it's really tight.
Oh yeah.
Right. Although Hollywood can't be controlled, there's very little. There's a lot of mythology around the team guys and what you guys do and how you operate and type of missions that you do, a lot of it's suspected. I don't think they truly understand.
No, I think a lot of it's
right. And you don't have a lot of, so some of the notable guys from 75th Ranger Regiment, like Matt Best, right? He's very well known. Everybody knows that he was in Ranger Bat, but he makes fun of the military, and he uses his military status for promoting things. He doesn't talk about the secrets of being a Ranger in 75th. Behind that, I would give the CCT and PJ community, the Air Force, and that's a close. I mean, I would actually say the Air Force, as far as keeping the silent professional, the Army and the Air Force do equally well.
I would agree.
Keeping that together.
A lot of modesty. A lot of it is modesty.
It is modesty. I mean, we have a PJ team up here. Your dad was a part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
As a gunner, yeah.
He's a gunner.
Yep.
I mean, you see the guys in town. They hang out at the VFW. They hang out at Odd Man Rush, and they've got their green feet jackets on.
That's it. Or a hat or something.
Or a hat.
But other than that.
Right. And what's funny is they use, so their morale gear is all civilian. It's not military. It's a Patagonia jacket. Yeah. It's a hat that says pararescue that looks like a civilian hat, like a Patagonia hat. It doesn't look, so, because I saw a dude at Jitters at the coffee house one morning, and I saw his hat, and I was like, what?
That's weird. It
what
looks
organization?
Familiar,
I was like, what organization is that? And he's like, oh, I'm a PJ out on base. I'm like, okay. I was like, totally makes sense now, right? And he was like, it's funny you picked up on that. Why are you asking? I was like, I'm a retired combat medic and blah, blah. He goes, all right, yeah, how cool, brother. We chatted up for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they don't advertise it unless you know what you're looking at, unless you know what green feet is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Unless you can pick
hints.
up on.
There's little hints and
right.
things that.
It's subtle, but it's very Masonic, right? Yep. And then behind that, so number 3, I would say MARSOC.
Yeah, and I don't think who knows about those guys?
They're fighting to be recognized, so they're talking. Right.
Most of America, regular Americans, don't know what the fuck
MARSOC
is.
Yeah. So they're not very quiet because they want to be recognized, right? And then there's the Navy SEALs.
Yeah. And it may not be completely their fault because Hollywood has had a lot to do with it.
Charlie Sheen made me want to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously, the only other time I thought about joining any other branch of service was when I watched Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Yep. And they've got more books, more movies, more.
Well, I think
everything done about them.
I think journalism school is the second phase of BUDS.
I think you're probably right.
Because
that's the part they don't talk about in the books.
They all write books. And I'm not knocking them because I very much respect him.
Oh, yeah.
And I like him. Not that I think he'd ever see my show or anything.
But they're having a laugh too.
Yeah. But so the only Army Special Forces guy that I know that is very forward, open, and kind of maybe slightly overconfident about himself in what he does is the fact that he's a world ranked UFC fighter, U.S. Army Green Beret, Special Forces sniper, blah, 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 Tim Kennedy.
Yep.
Right. But he also uses all of that to try to promote good.
Yeah. And he's progressed into something else that
he absolutely has.
He's using, why not use a little bit of your background to
absolutely
carry on?
But if you search, if you search Navy SEAL shooting videos, there's no less than 20 different Navy SEALs that produce their own pistol training courses, online training courses, in-person training courses. If you try to, books published by Navy SEALs, it goes endless.
Yeah. You got a Barnes & Noble website page that goes 500, 1,000 pages.
Yeah. It's like they all write books.
Yep.
Hand me it real quick. This one, which I talked about it in the intro, Breaking Buds. And it's actually written by a team guy, and he's explaining how to mentally get ready for what you're going to endure during BUDS in the 3 phases of.
So I did look on the back of this, and the quote here was the best, I thought. I mean, it definitely worthy of the back page, if not the front page. and it was from somebody, and I'll just, the quote is, just get the fuck over it. Don't be a pussy, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
And that's pretty much, I mean, you can make it through life with that fucking quote.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least make it through the Q course or buds.
Right.
Don't be a pussy. Don't quit.
One of my most
Get the fuck after it.
Right. In one of my most motivational lines, and I've talked about it in one or two other shows, and you can find it. It's actually in one of the excerpts of Bud's School in the intro of Lone Survivor. And it's, I think when they're doing surf drills and the Bud's instructor's like, whatever you have to do, find a reason to win.
Yep.
And when I'm having rough days at work, when I'm dealing with bad anniversaries or whatever challenge is coming to me, I draw back to that line, and it's from a Bud's instructor from, and I think it was No Easy Day or the whatever the documentary was on Bud's becoming a Navy SEAL or whatever. I think it's a clip. I think it's in there too. But anyway, one of my most inspiring things is from the SEALs that I saw in a movie. Right. So there's good that comes out of it, but yeah, they all write books. They all try to teach everyone how to shoot.
And maybe that just means they're smarter than the rest of us. Because I'm not making any money teaching people how to shoot or writing books. Nobody's read my fucking memoirs. Yeah. Because I haven't written any.
Right. Yeah. I think there's some truth to that too. That maybe not they're smarter than everybody else, but they're...
I mean, they use the ability to do it, which is good. I mean, take the opportunity, seize it.
Yeah. And ironically, because I just got done jonesing on him, one of the guys that I've started following the last few months, I think I might have talked to you about this last week or week before, Travis Kennedy, who was a Navy SEAL.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
And he does some gun training stuff and has some videos out there. And so I've watched a couple of his interviews and started following him a little bit more. And he was actually their team medic, which actually made me connect with him a little bit more. Just as the warrior provider element. But he's pretty well spoken, and he has, great advice. And I like the way he trains, like combat pistol and carbine stuff. But I've also seen some, and I'm not going to name any of them specifically because some of them might try to find me and kick my ass, and they all would be able to. But some of them do a lot of interviews. They do a lot of YouTube stuff. Some of them have podcasts, and they're just not well spoken. Yeah, they're just not well spoken. They're trying. And, but
bless them for trying.
They'll beat me on followers and downloads and everything every day because they're Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
People listen to them and download it just because they're a Navy SEAL.
Right.
So
it's a good tag to have.
Yeah, it is.
So I can't tell you how many times when I was in group, talking to my wife's friends or family or somebody else, somebody on the street, and I'm wearing a Green Beret, and people are like, so what is it that you do? I'm like, well, I'm in the Army, I'm a Special Forces engineer. I'm like, oh, is that like a Navy SEAL? You're kind of like a Navy SEAL? And I got to the point where I just said, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
No, I'm kind of like a Green Beret.
Kind of like that. Yeah. So, and initially you take the offense to it and you're like, well, fuck those guys. No, I'm a Green Beret. And then eventually I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah, kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Only I speak Chinese and those fuckers don't learn any language.
Yeah. So that's, So coming back from Mountain Warfare School in spring of 2008, we're in Chicago in our group, our mountain team, as we were prepping for our mission in Afghanistan. So we're sitting at O'Hare Airport waiting for our connecting flight. And this mother and about a 6 or 7 year old boy comes up. And, we just got done with Mountain Warfare School. We're kind of gruff, not as much facial hair as I have now, but we look kind of weird. We've all got tactical bags and we smelled like
stick out, but not
smelled like warrior.
Don't know who.
So this mother comes up and brings her son, and she's like, I don't mean to interrupt you. And so me and this guy, Sergeant First Class Kim, were the two team leaders. And so she comes up. She could tell that we were kind of the guys in charge, kind of watching her. Anyway, and she's like, I don't mean to interrupt you guys, but we're not in uniform. You know, we're in khakis and polo shirts or whatever.
A bunch of A-type personalities. People know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
You can smell us. And so she comes up. She's like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but my son wanted to know. He's a little nervous. Are you guys Navy SEALs? Are you guys a SEAL team? And so me and Sergeant Kim were like,
Start chuckling. Yep.
no, we are not Navy SEALs. And she's like, okay. And they turn around and walk away. She goes, those are Navy SEAls.
Right.
And I'm like,
They're not going to tell you if they are.
Yeah.
That's what a Navy SEAL would say.
yeah. And we're like, no. Like, whatever. Okay. So, yeah, this kid got
And he probably talks about it today.
he probably does.
You
I
know
met
what?
these
I
Navy
remember these Navy
SEAls.
SEAls in the airport.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
no. We were just dumb
Yeah,
Army
fuck
mountain
it.
climbers. Yeah. So, yeah. But,
That's what a Navy SEAL would say. He would say no, too.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are Navy SEAls. I'm like, no, we
No,
are
really,
not.
we're not.
Yeah. No, I'm Army, actually. I'll show you my ID card.
Oh, lame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's
Never
okay,
mind.
Timmy. They're boring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eh.
So, no, but what else? Oh, lieutenants.
Oh, yeah. I have had a couple good ones.
Yep. We can move on.
Yep.
Nope.
That's a good one. That's the joke.
That's the joke. Not much to say.
Oh, lieutenants.
They're lieutenants.
Yep.
I've had some really good lieutenants, and then I've had again, stereotypes exist for a reason. I won't mention his name, and I will not mention whether or not he was a West Point graduate because I don't remember.
Yeah.
But we're on patrol one night. We're in Iskandariyah, South Baghdad, Iraq. This is spring of 2004. And it's a new lieutenant. And as we're patrolling through Iskandariyah about 1 o'clock in the morning in Bradley's, really loud. Everybody knows we're there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to be going to the Al-Hatin weapons factory. All of the NCOs on the team leaders, I was a senior medic. Everybody had it marked in our plugger or our Garmin's. We all had it marked as a waypoint. We all fucking knew how to get there. So we stop. We go to this halt in the middle of, not that there was a good side of Iskandariyah, but this not so great side of Iskandariyah. Yeah. And the LT dismounts his Bradley and he comes back to the section leader and they're having this discussion. And so I dismount my ambulance, my 113, and I'm running up there. I'm like, hey, it's a bad fucking idea, man. Why are we stopped?
Let's fucking move, yeah.
You know, and I hear him talking and I'm like, is he lost? Like so
lieutenants are notorious for
Right.
getting lost.
yes. And this dude had us lost in Iskandariyah in the middle of the night when we were trying to get to Al-Hatin weapons factory. And all he had to do was come up on the net and be like, hey guys, how do we get there? And we could have all just been
Take a left, take a right.
dropped away. Hey, grid coordinate the follow break, boom. And then just giving it to him. But this dude tried to figure it out, and then finally, after doing circles and getting lost in Iskandariyah,
I just picture him with a map.
oh,
Turning
spinning
it
it,
upside
yeah,
down,
because he's not
spinning it
oriented.
Like, which, fuck, right, left.
He's got a compass in
north.
one hand and the map, and he's trying to.
Yep. Lieutenants are, I think, equal to. I mean, it was if you're going to take a 21-year-old private and put him in charge of an entire unit.
Right.
Like the fact that you went to college
And some of them
helps, but it doesn't make you.
right,
I don't know.
and
That's
some
my
of them get into trouble. Some of them lead themselves into trouble because they're trying too hard.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And if you listen to this, I'll be impressed and I appreciate it. But my platoon leader, when I was a platoon sergeant, we're out at NTC as we're prepping for deployment, and craziness, whatever. We just moved from LSA into the box and got into the fob, and so my PL comes back from the talk, and evidently he had just gotten his ass chapped pretty hard, and I'm like, I was like, hey sir, what's wrong? And he's like, I just got my ass handed to me about these evac plans and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what evac plans? My evac book was still in my footlocker.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he had to brief it, whatever. And so he shows me these evac plans and graphics that were built up and looked pretty and everything, but they were tactically fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who the fuck made these up? He's like, well, I did. I'm like, evac is the platoon sergeant's job. This is my job.
There are fucking people with jobs
Right.
that you have to rely on.
And he was, so I kind of,
Your lane.
I kind of grilled him, and I was just like, this is fucking horrible, blah, blah, blah. It was like, well, help me understand. I'm like, okay, let's get my book. And this is,
you should have fucking asked prior to your brief.
yeah, this is why you don't do it that way. These are the METTC things that we try to mitigate and think about as we're building an evac plan and our evac routes. And
that may be part of the problem, is that they get thrown into a position where they're expected to lead, and
I think that
they're expected to do a lot with very little. So an important thing, I think, in team life and in every life is modesty and accepting when you're wrong or when you don't know something, and being able to say, I don't fucking know.
Right.
I need some help, and looking to the guys who are subject matter experts to help you out and ask. Instead of just going, yep, I got this. I'm gonna do it. And
right.
You don't fucking know anything.
Into their defense, kind of what you're touching on, they get thrown to some platoon sergeant who has anywhere from years. 8 to 14 to 15, 16 years of experience or greater. That's probably kind of gruff, that all the men respect. And then you're new, and you're supposed to be, you got 5 minutes of experience, and you're supposed to be in charge.
Yeah.
And I think I think they just try too hard.
It's a difficult thing for some people.
Yeah. And that might be a cultural thing that's instilled to them in their indoctrination training at Bullock 1 and Bullock 2 or whatever. Yeah. Bullock for the civilians is basic officers leaders course. So yeah, I think that they, by and large, a lot of the failures that they have that create that lieutenantism about them is that sometimes they probably just try too hard and they want to impress us.
Yeah.
And when I look back at that experience in NTC, I think my LT just wanted to impress the team and know that, that to show and demonstrate that he could do it, that he got this and he did not get it.
Because it is hard for a lot of people to admit they don't know something or to ask for help.
Right.
And it takes some people a little bit longer to learn that,
Well, and magnify that. Right. And magnify that by the fact that you're in a type A culture.
Yep.
95% made that statistic up on the site, but 95% of the people are probably a type A person. You don't survive in that culture, in that community without being, if you're a type B, you just, beta males don't.
It's difficult.
Don't last. So yeah, you're an alpha, you get thrown into a community of 500 other alphas that have 75 alpha leaders, and you're trying to position yourself within your team that
it's a very fine line.
It is.
And you can't mess up too often.
No.
Once you start and you mess up once, it's a hard hill to climb back up from.
And I think, and again, so all the lieutenants that might be listening to this, learn from this.
1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, right. But it's a difficult road too, because if you ask for help too much,
then you're incompetent.
Right.
Just don't be a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We get that. We'll give you a degree of leeway because you're a lieutenant.
Yeah.
And but we love our lieutenants.
Help, but don't ask for help all the time.
They're necessary.
Somebody's got to take the brunt of the yelling.
I watched in 2003, I watched our XO get smoked by our company commander.
Nice.
I came back off a patrol. I was out with one of the other platoons and come back to the headquarters platoon area. And I walk in and the XO is doing flutter kicks. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
That's kind of fucked for that. That's a hard thing to make your lieutenant do and come back from.
Yeah. And I was just like,
that's quite a precedent.
The fuck is happening here? And so I go drop my kit and come back and I'm like, hey sir, what'd you do? And our CO comes out. He goes, don't talk to him. Push-ups.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yep. Whew.
Yeah. So what I had missed, evidently when I was out on patrol, in some whatever meeting, some kind of update, whatever, that this young XO, who's a first lieutenant, all right, he's been promoted once, he challenged the commander in front of a group.
Bam. Good reason to do push-ups.
Yeah. So he did.
A lot of change happens when you're forced to do push-ups.
You think about a lot of things. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Good. I make my daughters do push-ups when they screw up and misbehave or something, I'll make them get down and do 10 push-ups.
Yeah,
They
this
bitch and
is
moan about it for the beginning, but by the end of 10 push-ups, they forgot about what they were pissed off about. Or
I think this goes into this. I think this is, I couldn't find it, but this is probably a stereotype about military people, about how we discipline our children.
yeah,
Hand either one of my children a golf umbrella, and it will bring out an emotional event. Because I used to make my kids do rifle PT for push-ups.
hey, that's good.
That or so Christy was. We were a couple of months out from deployment. I knew I was getting ready to leave. Let Christy sleep in on a Saturday, and the kids just woke up and immediately started showing their fucking ass. So I'm used to dealing with 18-year-old privates, right? Yeah, students aren't. So
how different can they be?
Christy hears the kids kind of break into crying, and their life is changing immediately, and she comes out, and they both have cans of peas in each hand, with their knees bent up, straight back against the wall with their arms out. And she's like, what the hell's going on here? I'm like, go back to bed. I've got it. Know?
Yep. Go sleep in.
Yeah. So I felt it would have been abusive to give them each canteens, probably a little too much for their small skeletal frame. Right. But little cans
Something
of peas and
lighter.
chili was fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit of physical activity doesn't hurt.
Right.
And it's a good way, but by the end of it, they're not upset, and they've got something done for the day. They've done a little bit of physical activity.
Well, and you only have to do it once or twice. And then they start showing the fool, right? And you're just like, hey, go get 2 cans of peaches out of the the pantry. They're like, no, Dad, I'm good.
Changed, sorry.
I'm going to go get my golf umbrella. Yeah, because I made my daughter do rifle PT with a golf umbrella one day.
That's awesome.
So she...
that's a good idea. I might take a note from Dave's book.
Yeah, that's... That one ingrained a memory.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Yep. So, yeah, just, knees flexed, back against the wall.
I'm going to take that note down.
Yeah. So... if you've got any other stereotypes that we could review in the future, or maybe talk about after next week's episode or something, share them with us. You can go on to bulletstobeans.com and comment on the blog. You can drop us an email at bulletstobeans@gmail.com. You can go to the @bulletstobeans on Facebook.
How about some ideas for shows too? Maybe, like
content. Content
if
ideas.
You got something you want us to talk about or want Dave to talk about?
But Terrence's going to be more of a fixed asset on the show from time to time more often.
I just knock on his door on a Sunday morning when he's recording, and
my wife makes really good Bloody Marys.
Here's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I just kind of crash his party and show up.
So yeah, any content ideas, drop us a line. We'd love to do content that you want to hear about. And the impetus to the show was talking about transition challenges and military type challenges, problems, trying to create solutions and bring the community together. The title is Bullets to Beans. Taryn and I are working on some content development to focus more on the bullet side of it than the bean side of it. We're in a very unstable and untrying time within our country. So situational awareness and just ways to keep yourself from becoming a victim. We're going to talk about that either next week or the week after. We're putting that show together. Maybe start reviewing guns. Taryn will probably talk about Glocks.
Got some SIG issues over here.
Yeah, I got a brand new PT-26 in 40, and there
were some issues.
Blew it up at the range. Yeah, I'm having some issues with the SIG. So I'm back to my full frame MMP. My Smith & Wessons haven't ever failed me yet, knock on wood. So yeah, it's bullets to beans. We can talk more bullets. We can talk more beans. So I think I don't think it was as funny as what we'd intended, but I think it was
funny in our minds.
Yeah. I hope you got something out of it.
If you're still listening at this point, it couldn't have been that bad.
Right.
If it sucked, you'd have turned it off.
That's right.
A long time ago. So.
Well, and as a humanitarian, I like to poke fun at people, but then try to recover from it, I guess. Right. Because that's the medic in me.
The shit sandwich.
Yeah. Right. So anything else?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for having me again. And
oh yeah, always.
You're a regular, man.
And stay tuned. We'll close the show out in just a moment. And we'll be back. Which one do I stop first?
It's supposed to be the audio, right?
Audio.
Because the camera's supposed to still roll.
And